after you.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Dynasty 365, the Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast here at Fantasy and Frames. I'm your host for tonight, Jorge Edwards, along with Aidan Weingartner. Kyle Zeigler, our normal host, is has to do the whole "hey, I have to work" thing, and I'm like, you know what? I buy that. I don't buy it, Aidan. I think it's an excuse. I think he got so. I don't want to say humiliated is the word, but I feel like he just feels bad. Like he feels bad for not trusting.
Last week was too much.
Last week was too much. He's like, you know what, Jorge, you're right. Jayden Daniels deserves to be a top 5 quarterback in Dynasty. And I'm going to punish myself by working extra hours and getting away from Jorge. I get it. We all make mistakes, man. I get it. Like you don't have to. You don't have to feel bad about it. I'm just saying. But no, I kid, and I respect Kyle's argument, but he's wrong, and he's not here to defend himself, which is why I'm getting away with saying what I'm saying. Anywho, enough about that. Aidan, man, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. We're finally getting close to wrapping up the series. It feels like this is our second to last division. It's been fun kind of going across the Dynasty landscape and what has changed over the last few months or so to finally set our expectations for the next year or so across many different divisions.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, folks, just a reminder, Aidan just wrapped up our last of our Dynasty content in article form over on fantasyandframes.com. Definitely go check that out. Aidan, when we planned out all of our Dynasty content, back in February for the year, I don't think I knew it was going to be like good and people are going to get information out of it, but I didn't think it was going to be to the levels that it is, and that's purely because of your leadership and leading the Dynasty efforts here at Fantasy and Frames. So congratulations for all the great content you've been doing here. And so yeah, head over to fantasyandframes.com. He just finished his 2026 Dynasty and Faller series at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. And don't forget to give him a follow at Weingartner 13 because he was 13 years old when he created his Twitter profile.
You'll never let that go.
Never gonna. I'm sorry. You're 22 years younger. Yeah. So yeah, I can get away with that.
I know.
Let's see here. Drew is in the chat. Drew says Kyle is ducking our quarterback ranking show tonight too, so that checks out. Love it.
What do you
know? Fantasy Meatball. What's up, Fantasy Meatball? Says, hi, Jorge and Aidan. What's going on? Oh, we're having some fun tonight. Fantasy and Frames Wednesday. We got Dynasty 365. Obviously, you're watching that right now. Then we have Shoot the Gap right after us, covering, again, the NFC South plays, fades, and sleepers for IDP fantasy football. And then, of course, what Drew was alluding to in the previous comment, we have Fourth and Frames, our redraft show, where we're going to be talking about our top 12 quarterbacks, as well as some sleepers outside the top 12 that we're excited for redraft purposes, and that's at 10 p.m. Eastern. So
who knows what's going to happen there?
Yeah, exactly. Back-to-back shows. So we're really excited. Aidan, I think we should just jump in right here to some of our overvalued and undervalued players. Let's start with you. Let's go overvalued and who you got here as an overvalued player in the NFC South?
I have Carolina as an overvalued player. I have Carolina Panthers running back Chuba Hubbard currently sitting at RB 31 in the FP Dynasty ECR rankings right now. My biggest thing with Chuba, I know this has been beaten to death by the entire industry at this point, but just for the sake of argument in this discussion specifically, I'll bring it up one more time as a reminder. Chuba Hubbard did not have a single explosive run last season. So the athleticism profile and elusiveness or lack thereof is just not there in the least. But that's not all. He didn't showcase himself very well last year, at all. As evidenced by amongst 49 qualifying running backs, he ranked 40th in yards per carry, which is just like a surface level metric that you should be able to do good in, but he didn't. 49th in missed tackles forced per attempt. That is literally dead last, 49 out of 49. 47th, third to last, in yards after contact per attempt. And this is marginally better, but not really in the grand scheme of things. 27th in yards before contact per attempt. And that's with the Panthers having a very much improved offensive line over the last year or so. Chuba was just not able to take advantage of that at all in the least. And at the end of the day, Jorge, I think you've said this in the past. Are you still a Bryce Young guy? Yes or no?
I am a fan of Bryce Young. I do not want to besmirch the name of Bryce Young. He's had some clutch games, and he's had definitely some down times. Is he somebody I'm wanting to get as my quarterback one in Dynasty? Absolutely not. But I'm still a believer in Bryce Young. A couple of years ago they benched him, and then he came back, and then he had a hot stretch, and then the last year it was like, but then towards the end of the season he had a hot stretch, and so at least from that aspect you're getting consistency. So I'm a fan of the hot stretches, but not enough to make me super high on his consistency for fantasy.
Okay, then I don't know how you'll feel about what I'm about to say here. At the end of the day, outside of Ted McMillan, honestly, personally, I don't really want to fully invest or anything close to it into anybody tied to an inefficient Bryce Young-led offense. I'm sorry. I just think it's very slow-paced. I love Dave Canales as a head coach. I love him as a play caller for hopefully years to come. But I haven't seen enough from Bryce Young to say, oh, yeah, outside of a former alpha first-round pick and Ted McMillan, I need to invest in guys, one or two of them or so, in this case, Chuba Hubbard. And on paper, we always talk about contracts for Dynasty. So on paper, although Hubbard is technically under contract in Carolina for the next three more years still, the team can pretty easily move on from him as soon as after this season. So after the 2026 NFL season, they can move on pretty easily if he disappoints once again, which throughout this conversation discussion, you can probably tell I am very much expecting him to disappoint once again. So whether it's he's on a new team, the efficiency metrics are frankly awful, the athleticism backing those metrics or the lack thereof really in this case is just not there. The Bryce Young inefficient offense is my main worry. I think Chuba Hubbard needs to be outside the top 40, and right now, maybe not way outside the top 40, but a little bit outside the top 40, and right now he's firmly close to that like mid-tier RB3 range of Dynasty at RB31 at the moment.
So let's let's stick with the Panthers backfield here, and let's see where we both stand on Jonathan Brooks. Right before we came on the show, I was talking about, man, there's a lot of like conversation on Twitter of like 2 torn ACLs, 2 missed seasons missed. Was it 4? What is it? What did I put? It was it's the Christmas jingle. What did I put?
The Carol, yeah.
Christmas Carol, yeah. It is 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, a partridge. I want the people to know a partridge in a pear tree.
No.
But if he can overcome all that value. And I'm like, well, technically, yes, there's value, but so are generic candies, cereals, and milk substitutes. And the purpose of that tweet, believe it or not, was I really wanted to use the GIF from The Simpsons back in the 90s where Bart is at the table and he's like, but I always drink plenty of milk with vitamin R, a milk substitute, because I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I don't know if the old heads or younger generation get that reference, but if you don't, go back and watch The Simpsons, the old versions. They are fantastic.
I'm on it.
Well, I should hope you are. So Fantasy Pros has Jonathan Brooks as the RB35 in Dynasty. I'm curious, jokes aside, man, you mentioned that the contract situation is easy for the Panthers to get out for Chuba Hubbard, but if you're in a Dynasty, startup right now, you're late to, quote unquote, the party for doing that. Although there are leagues out there that wait until, this point of the year, and we're here to happy to give you your advice here. But man, like in a startup, are you going out of your way? And if so, when are you trying to select? And this is again in an all offense, super flex startup. Like, are you chomping at the bit to go get Jonathan Brooks, even though he has been out of the game for so long, retore one of his ACLs twice? The reports from OTAs are looking good, but we won't really know the usage this year. Where do you stand on the whole Jonathan Brooks? Do you think at 35 he's overvalued or undervalued?
So funny you first. Let me say, Jorge, funny you bring that up right now currently, because my Chuba Hubbard overvalued pick, slamming of him, isn't necessarily anything to do with Jonathan Brooks. I'm all in on Brooks for redraft this season, but for Dynasty, I'm with you. I want to be cool off a bit per se, and I want to see it first before I really believe it and fully invest and buy it. So Jonathan Brooks is more of a redraft take for me than a Dynasty take. So that was solely about Chuba for overvaluedness. But in Dynasty, I'm still cautiously optimistic. I think RB 35, 36, where he is right now, is perfectly fine. Dead last back end RB3 is perfectly fine. But yeah, to answer your question, I'm more excited for redraft. For Dynasty, I want to see it first before I fully invest.
No, I love that. We'll get into my overvalued, and it's really tough. When we were looking at different teams and looking at the different wide receivers that are overvalued, I think you could agree, Aiden, we're kind of like pulling strings here as far as like we're talking about a few spots here. It's kind of hard to say. Anyone can make the argument for what we're about to say, but for me, and I want to pull up my Dynasty rankings just so I'm showing I'm being consistent here. We have my overvalued according to Fantasy Pros Dynasty rankings currently. We have Jordan Tyson as the wide receiver 20. And just to give you an idea, Jordan Tyson is going ahead of players like Zay Flowers, Mekhi Lemon, Rashee Rice, T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, Roma Dunze, let's see, Christian Watson, Omar Cooper Jr. Okay, well, he's kind of farther down the list. But, he's also going around the area of Devontae Smith, Lad McConkey, Garrett Wilson. So, I don't know, man. Like, isn't he dealing with a hamstring injury already this season?
Yes.
And which, again, for redraft purposes, that's one thing. But, again, we're talking Dynasty. We're talking, the years. The only thing I see as a plus for him right now is that, he's 21. And I am concerned that people, wow, that's scary. But you look at the fact that, you look at the wide receivers, 17 through 28, he is the youngest one at 21. I don't know, man. Like, I'd rather have Zay Flowers over Jordan Tyson. I think Zay Flowers has the opportunity and will be the wide receiver 1 for the Ravens.
I agree.
Jalen Waddle is 27, but he has, when we're thinking about Dynasty, we're thinking about what, 3 to 5 years. Jalen Waddle is in a brand new situation where he's going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Broncos. Rashee Rice, when he's not getting in trouble with the law, he's at 26. In a perfect world where we don't wish for injuries, or we don't predict injuries, or we don't predict, car accidents and jail time. Other things. Rashee Rice, I'd rather have him. I just feel at this point, Chris Olave is still there. Chris Olave is going to be the primary target. I know there's a lot. People are really high on Tyler Shuck. People are high on Kellen Moore. But I think by having him so close to wide receivers like Devonta Smith, like McConkey, Zay Flowers, I think that's a little bit disrespectful to those wide receivers that have shown to be proven commodities, and yet still have they're still young in their professional careers. Again, to prove my point, so I'm looking at my rankings right now over at Fantasy and Frames for Jordan Tyson. I said Fantasy Pros has him as the 20th. I have him at 26. So again, pulling strings here, but I don't know. I feel like I want to take more of a proven commodity. I know everyone likes to flock to age as a determining factor of where they have their rankings. I am not necessarily going to play that game. I get why people are doing it, because it's like, he's young. There's plenty of time to develop. There's plenty of this, plenty of that. I'm like, okay, but this person who's just like 3 or 4 years older than him has done this, that has done that. And I'm trying to win now. And this player that I'm selecting, who's a veteran, they still got more years ahead versus an unproven commodity who's already banged up. So I don't know. I'm pumping the brakes for having wide receiver 2s ahead of wide receiver 1s on established offenses right now.
Yeah. So at first glance, wide receiver 20, right? So I don't think that's terrible, but when you put it like that, all right, and give me who he's going over, who he's going right around. In that sense, I do agree it's a bit bullish.
I get it. He was a top pick in the NFL draft this year. On paper, he's walking into the right circumstances based on what we saw towards the end of last year. But, man, like, I don't know. Like, again, wide receiver 2 being ranked against high-performing wide receiver 1s that have still plenty of years left in the tank. Like, I don't know, man. I just can't justify a 20 finish here in Dynasty rankings. But I digress. Let's get into so that's kind of hard, but I think we're going to have some more fun talking about our undervalued players.
Yeah.
Because honestly, in the NFC South, there's not a lot of overvalued. I feel like they're pretty well valued. Wouldn't you agree there, Aidan?
Totally. I was having trouble thinking, like, who do I believe versus my own thought versus ECR, who is overvalued? Because I think the prices are, for the most part, pretty spot on.
Well, let me throw a player here now that I'm thinking properly. Tetairoa McMillan, you mentioned it. You don't want any pieces. You said that he's probably one of the pieces you want for this Panthers team. But what are your thoughts with him? Do you feel like him as the wide receiver? I believe it is wide receiver 9 is fair, given the fact that we have Bryce Young to deal with as a quarterback for the near future.
I would like to see him more in the wide receiver 12 or 13 range. So from that perspective, I think it's a few spots too high, but at that point we're splitting hairs and they're all jumbled in the same tier. So I think it's a few spots too high, but nothing terrible.
All right. All right, let's go to the undervalued players here, Aidan, and I really want to hear your perspective on this wide receiver.
I know you've been a fan of this guy recently for a long time, but it is Tampa Bay Buccaneers slot receiver Chris Godwin. I couldn't believe this when I saw this. Right now, all the way down in Fantasy Pros Dynasty ECR, wide receiver 50. I understand he's 30 years old now as of this past February, and basically all last year he was in and out of the lineup. Technically only played 9 games, but playing through injuries in and out of the lineup in that sense. So that skewed a lot of people's thoughts, which fine, fair enough. I understand that, but let me give you some facts about Chris Godwin that you may want to reevaluate some things. Number one, with Mike Evans no longer in the picture, Godwin is by far, like, it's not even close, Baker Mayfield's most trusted and most experienced in terms of NFL reps, in terms of NFL experience, pass catcher. Jalen McMillan going into year 3. Emeka Egbuka going into year 2. Cade Otton is as average and mediocre of a tight end as they come. I'm sorry, Cade Otton truthers. That's just what I feel. I don't think anyone would argue that. So that's number one. With Mike Evans no longer there, they need another. Baker Mayfield needs another long-term experienced guy to lean on. That is going to be Chris Godwin. The name of the game with a player like this is efficiency and consistency. He has been the model of consistency. I'm going to give you from 2021 to 2023 this player's last 3 PPR finishes in terms of points per game in that scoring format. Wide receiver 7, wide receiver 16, and wide receiver 36. So that is 3 wide receiver 3 finishes in a row. Rather, 3 top 36 wide receiver finishes in a row, one being a stellar top 10 finish. Listen to this. This is going to blow your mind because it did when I saw it too. Although he only played in 7 games in 2024 due to breaking his ankle at the mid to end of October that year, Godwin still finished in terms of a points per game scenario as the overall wide receiver 2 in PPR scoring. I know it's a skewed sample size. I know it's only 7 games, but that just doesn't happen out of happenstance. That's talent, and Chris Godwin always has high slot rates, and we love to see high slot rates for fantasy production. I broke it down in my premium article a few weeks ago or so. High slot rates lead to open routes, lead to separation. At the end of the day, ultimately lead to easy targets. So Chris Godwin lining up in the slot. He's Baker's most trusted weapon by far, which, by the way, Baker Mayfield on paper is a free agent next March, next offseason. But I do I do strongly feel that they should and ultimately will come to a 3 or 4 year agreement down the road. So Chris Godwin, wide receiver 50. I mean, I think he should be wide receiver 36 or 37 personally. I still think he should be a back end wide receiver 3, at worst high end, wide receiver 4. I'm not saying you need to go out and buy Chris Godwin right now necessarily, but if you happen to have him on your team, happen to have him on your build/roster, you're going to get at least 2 or 3 more solid years out of him, I feel.
Coincidentally, a lot of Bucs players are going to be listed here for undervalued, and I'm going to go to another one. I'm going to go to Jalen McMillan. Last year he suffered what some was considering a career-threatening neck injury. He comes back in week 5 and week 15 and week 16. They're easing him back into the game plan. 2 targets those 2 weeks. Week 17, 7 targets, getting more involved, getting healthier. Coaches are liking what they're seeing. 9 targets, 7 receptions, $114 and 15 fantasy points and half PPR. So, Baker Mayfield didn't forget him, so he clearly has the Bucs coaching staff attention. You go back to where he finally started getting meaningful snaps back in 2024 in terms of a point per game. He finished weeks 14 through 18 as the wide receiver 5 in points per game. He at wide receiver, I believe it's 61 here for Fantasy Pros Dynasty rankings. Yeah. Give me Jalen McMillan. I think he should be at 50 where Godwin is at, to be honest with you. He definitely has the upside here. He's definitely somebody who I have him at 48, just for reference. So right around that 50 spot. You want to talk about flyers at the wide receiver position. This guy not only is he a flyer, I think he's better than a flyer. You look at proven production, you look at coming back from what was considered to be a career-threatening injury to putting up numbers that he had during his rookie season. And now he gets an off season where this might be coming at you in a negative here. And you have a 30-year-old wide receiver in Chris Godwin. You have Emeka Egbuka, who, yes, he has tons of upside. He has tons of talent. But they just re-signed Godwin to, what was it, like a 3-year contract or something like that recently?
Yeah, last year, yeah.
Yeah. And where does Godwin play? In the slot. Where is Egbuka in college? Where did he make his name? In the slot. We saw last year when he was playing in the slot, very productive. Then they had him move out wide. Then all of a sudden things got really weird, and he dealt with some type of injury. A lot of, long-term aspects. Obviously, Egbuka has the highest upside of everybody here. But if McMillan, he's right where he needs to be, right where he found his productivity a couple of years ago. Again, if you have deep benches, he's definitely somebody I think is better than a sleeper pick. So definitely somebody to pay attention there. Going to the next undervalued player, Kenny Gainwell, currently the RB38. Look, I'm not chasing what happened last year in Pittsburgh, and I understand it's a different situation here. And recent reports have Bucky Irving being, if they had, this is the part that gets me. If he had to go today, he would go. And my question is, this is what local reporters are saying.
That's what everyone says.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, but would he go well, or would he just be a body out there who's underperforming and not, showing a lot of efficiency there? So, I think Gainwell, when looking at the running backs who are going around him in Dynasty, he goes to a new situation. His role is pretty much going to be the same as what Rachaad White was over the course of his career. Rachaad White wasn't like a great runner or rusher per se, but he had receiving upside. That's Gainwell's bread and butter. That's what we saw when they were able to focus on him. You look at, so proven productivity is where I'm trying to hammer home here. And you look at the players that are around him, Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill. I mean, outside of a few splash games last year, what did he do? The answer is nothing. You look at Jonah Coleman at 37. I mean, there are some names. You got Dobbins, you got Harvey, and then Jonah Coleman. And I get, again, prospects, but I get it. He's 22 years old, but let's pump the brakes for people that are more valuable for your dynasty teams now. We talked about Jonathan Brooks at 36. Okay, you can make the argument, and I think we did, that he is properly valued there. You look at Tony Pollard, heading into his last season under contract. Where does he go after this? So I don't know. Again, like we said to kick off this undervalued and overvalued segment for the NFC South, there are a lot of people that are like properly placed, and then a few here and there that I don't know. I feel like they find one extreme or the other, and I think Jalen McMillan, Kenny Gainwell is somebody who has shown proper evidence of being able to be a receiving option out of the backfield, finding himself in an offense that, their identity is basically gone. Like Mike Evans is gone. That was like where they funneled all the targets to. That was the main guy, and so now they're trying to figure everything out. Something tells me Gainwell can bring a little bit more, calming consistency to this offense that people are probably not too high on, because they view him as he's just a receiving back. I'm like, well, does he play the role well? Yeah. Does he score a lot of points as a receiving back? Yeah. Is he going to be in an offense that's going to be throwing the ball around a lot? Yeah. Okay. So why are we not valuing him more? Your thoughts on Kenny Gainwell there, Aidan, as you're standing up and not, go.
No, sorry. I was looking at my notes here. So this is a crowded backfield, right? You have Bucky Irving, who's the clear volume back, assuming he's healthy. Kenny Gainwell, who is a clear receiving back, and then Sean Tucker, who I think is a really deep value that you can capitalize on as the preferred goal line back if Bucky's not healthy, of course. My problem with Kenny Gainwell is I've come around on him for redraft a bit, but Jorge, I said to JT and you guys back in March when we had our free agency reaction episode or two, I'm questioning why they let Rachaad White walk and then inserted Kenny Gainwell. Again, I think you just explained it wonderfully for everyone out there, but I think the touchdown upside is going to be limited with how much they pass the ball. When they run the ball, it's going to be Bucky Irving, into a way lesser degree Sean Tucker, but I don't know. I'm just going to say I'm indifferent on it. I know that's like a cheap cop-out answer, but I truly do not know how to evaluate the player.
No, and I get it. Like, a new team, new situation, but if this was like a 1-year deal, like, I'd be like, all right, whatever. We'll not put too much stock in this. But wasn't it like a 2 or 3 year deal that they gave him this year? Yeah. So I don't know. There's the fact that roles are different. We saw Rachaad White in that role have success. I think Kenny Gainwell can meet those expectations. Therefore, with him being a more of a proven commodity, I think there's argument to be made that his dynasty value should be a little bit higher where it is. And then to wrap up our undervalued players here, this is going to make Drew happy. Drew Scott, the one of the hosts of Fourth and Frames. Let me just tell you who Fantasy Pros has as their top 8 tight ends in Dynasty. Yeah. They have Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren in the first tier. And then tier 2, they have Tucker Kraft, Harold Fannin, Sam Laporta, and the guy that I think is undervalued this is going to really confuse Drew here because I'm normally out on this guy. Kyle Pitts, who I think should be the ranked 6th overall, jumping from 8. Again, we're pulling strings here, but Harold Fannin, we have new wide receivers there. For the Browns, the quarterback situation is shaky. The reason why Fannin found a lot of success last year is because, who did they really have a trusted commodity in the receiving game? So Harold Fannin had to play multiple roles there. Yeah. Whereas Kyle Pitts, regardless if it's Tua or Penix, they gave him this huge contract, this offseason. They're investing in him. You look at what they have in the passing game with him in London, and then that's it, right? There's nobody else you want on your roster from the Atlanta Falcons. So the target's going to be funneled his way. You have Stefanski coming over there, and with limited receiving options with the Browns, look at what they did to David Njoku. Like, they made him a very viable tight end. And Harold Fannin last year, exactly. Njoku didn't really do as well last year before Fannin got there, but prior to Fannin arriving, we saw Njoku have fantasy viability. that's taking a hit now. So yeah, give me Kyle Pitts a little bit higher. You saw the money, you saw the investment, and outside of Drake London, you're seeing less of a target opportunity there. So I think the argument can be made that Kyle Pitts as the tight end 8 in Dynasty is a little bit of an insult there, especially with Harold Fannin and his situation being ranked as the tight end 6.
Jorge, I love this call. I would also have Kyle Pitts at tight end 6 for all the reasons you just explained. He's in one of the most condensed target trees in the entire NFL. He is in a very high-paced offense. He's in a he's tied to a very tight end friendly head coach in Kevin Stefanski for years to come. Hopefully, I love everything that's adding up for Kyle Pitts. He finally made All-Pro, second team All-Pro last season. Finally got that big long-term extension, 3-year extension that we've been waiting for. There's no reason not to invest heavily in Kyle Pitts now.
Drew says every season is Kyle Pitts' season. Every season, yeah. Okay, well, we apparently we've forgotten about the bad seasons, but hopefully
22, 23, 24.
Basically his first year, and then down the stretch of last year. But hey, let's throw logic out the window here and just go off of logic makes too much sense. So we have a question here from Meatball. He says, and Aidan, if we could pull up both of our Dynasty rankings over at fantasyandframes.com. He's asking, where do you have Teteroa McMillan ahead of or behind T. Higgins? Let me know when you have yours up, and I'll let you know what mine are. I have McMillan over T. Higgins. Again, I generally like to have wide receiver 1s on offenses ahead of wide receiver 2s. Assuming that they are productive from a fantasy standpoint, and then have upside there.
I also have Tat McMillan slightly ahead of T. Higgins because you just said he's the alpha on question number 1. And the only piece, as I explained with my Chuba Hubbard slander, the only piece I want, not Carolina offense, and versus T. Higgins, who is very good in his own right, but dealing with Jamar Chase, a target hog, on a weekly basis. So I prefer McMillan as well. It is close, but I prefer McMillan.
All right. NFC South, kind of tricky from Dynasty perspectives as far as people, and I think that's a good thing. I think, maybe that's telling you where the market is here in Dynasty. If you're having your drafts or you're looking at trades and you're trying to get fair deals done between now and the rest of the season, like, go get some bucks, invest, in the wide receiver situation. You can get some value at the running back situation. There's so much hype right now regarding Jonathan Brooks. You're not going to get him for cheap because everybody's going to be like, I want to be the guy. I want to be the first person who was there. I want to shout from the mountaintops that he
rushes for 1,000 yards.
Right, yeah, exactly. I was the first one. I'm important. Me. You're not going to get him at a value. We got Albert in the chat. What's going on, Albert? He says, how do you guys rank Tet, Egbuka, and Burden? For me, for Dynasty, I would go Egbuka, Tet, and Burden. I'm sorry, what did Luther Burden, he had one game versus the 49ers where it was just...
Good thing Kyle's not on here. He would go on a tangent for 20 minutes.
And it's not like he had, well, how should I say this? It's not like Burden is in a situation where he's like the only receiving option. Like, they still drafted Rome Odunze, and there's a lot left to be said there. Drew's in the chat. He says, which again, you can catch Drew's rankings over at fantasyandframes.com as well. He has Tet at wide receiver 9, Egbuka at 10, and Burden at 17. So a little different here at the top, but we're not drinking a Kool-Aid just yet on Luther Burden. He has a little bit more to show there.
Yeah. No.
Man. Tell the good folks which division we're covering next week.
Yeah, see, this isn't a compass trick question because this is the last division. So by process of elimination, it's the NFC West. So, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to be covering the risers and the overvalued and undervalued players in the NFC West next week for Dynasty purposes. And then, that'll be I think we have some more episodes to go through in August, but then when it comes time for the regular season, we'll be switching to a monthly episode here of Dynasty 365, as I know everybody's going to be in a redraft mode, but there's still articles over at fantasyandframes.com where we'll be talking about, monthly updates in Dynasty values, trends that we're noticing. We'll start taking a look at the 2027 rookie season here. So, stuff's coming. You may not see us on screen as much, come the regular season, but you will be seeing plenty of our content over at fantasyandframes.com and staying up to date with the rankings as we go throughout the season. But yeah, NFC West next week. Hopefully Kyle will be back. And of course, Aidan, will miss you at the Fantasy Football Expo, which is a little bit over a week away. Hope to see you in a couple of years then there. Yeah, man, it feels like this has been like a short discussion, but it's been, a long episode-ish. So, but I think, Aidan, you could agree the takeaway is you're going to find a lot of value targeting players in the NFC South. So keep that in mind as the season progresses. But if there's one player that we've talked about today, Aidan, who would you think should be the most sought after, reasonably priced player in Dynasty from the NFC South?
Like in terms of being undervalued or just spot on? Like
just somebody, like out of all the players we talked about, who would you want to go after at value, in your opinion, from the NFC South?
Probably Kyle Pitts, but if that's too close, like for you, tight end 6 was tight end 8, if you want a bigger difference, I'd go Chris Godwin for all the reasons I mentioned.
And I would go Jalen McMillan. I think wide receiver 61 is flat out egregious. Yeah. All right. Well, Aidan, what you got going on the rest of the week?
Nothing. Sorry. Nothing much, just heading into the weekend. Nothing much really, but
sounds exciting.
Yeah.
I wife and kids are out till are out till Saturday. So yeah, she's like, don't make sure you unload the dishwasher and do this. Don't make a mess there. I'm like, make sure to stay up with it the entire week. I'm like, why should I stay up with it the entire week? You got all day Friday, before you show back up. So
make sure you don't watch Lord of the Rings again for the 10th time.
Oh, I might. No, I've watched it 7 times this year already, so I think I'm good.
This year,
like the entire trilogy, like the extended editions too. So I think we're good there. But,
you and the dog.
Me and the dog. Me and Penny will chill out, and we'll get some more content out there at fantasyandframes.com. We're going to be having coming out very soon our positional previews for the regular season for redraft. So we're putting together a new format. Normally we do a division by division preview. We're scrapping that. Everyone does division by division previews. Let's start attacking these players by position and give you a fresh perspective of how to prepare for the regular season and redraft. But for dynasty purposes, we got a few more things coming out here at fantasyandframes.com, so check those out. And we'll definitely have our finalized rankings for dynasty by the beginning of August, so that you can all go into the seasons and start your assessments of like, okay, if I need to start targeting a player in dynasty in a trade, who am I going after? So we got you covered here. So we're looking, I think that's going to wrap it up here for us on Dynasty 365. So for Aidan, I'm Jorge. You all have a good one.